Racism is built on many layers, a foundation first poured before the U.S. was even a country. Now, to undo it, you really need to drill down deep. And tonight, as 13 Action News continues bridging the divide, the 13 Action News reporter Alicia Patillo shows us how ending slavery was not an end to disparity, not even close.
When slavery ended, a new era rose. This period would shape our country for years to come. This is the Reconstruction and the introduction of Jim Crow. After the Civil War, there was a time of significant transformation in the United States. America was grappling with a way to integrate millions of former slaves into social, political, and economic life. There was opposition every step of the way.
Abraham Lincoln said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand."
During this period of change, Congress passed constitutional amendments that would lay the groundwork for equality. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery in the United States. The 14th Amendment prohibited states from depriving any male citizen of any race of equal protection. And the 15th Amendment granted black men the right to vote.
There is this brief moment where the Reconstruction programs are implemented and you start to see black men flexing their political muscles and voting black people into office, or white liberals who were at that time radical Republicans. And there does seem to be some type of shift occurring in the 1860s and the 1870s.
Black people were finally acquiring the land of former slave owners, working and earning an education. Still, acceptance was an uphill battle that kept getting steeper.
The hardening of racism occurs after the potential of black liberation. I mean, this is the great story of America. Every time black people take a step forward, white supremacist governments crack down very harshly.
Black codes were laws designed to restrict the freedom of African American rights, enforced to limit labor and activities for the black population. For example, even though the 15th Amendment had been passed, giving black men the right to vote, many faced discrimination and intimidation from white people when heading to the polls, which discouraged many black men from exercising their rights that were just granted to them.
Black mobility was so restricted at that time, and it was intentionally targeting people of African descent.
How do you feel about black folks?
I don't need them.
I live on 209 Mendota Avenue, Lexington, North Carolina, and my name is Roy Woodle, and I'm not ashamed to be a Klansman. Amen.
In Pulaski, Tennessee, between 1865 and 1866, America's first terrorist organization was born. The KKK drove hate and fear for generations of black families. Klan members wore white capes and hoods to hide their identities while terrorizing and killing with a mob mentality, often by lynching.
The white man has been the supreme race. We, the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, intend to keep it the white race.
Racism in America would continue with the rise of Jim Crow laws.
And now, two quiet people, Cotton Watts and Chick.
You know, Cotton, I'm making a picture called The Lion Tamer.
The Lion Tamer? There ain't but one kind of lion I'll mess with.
What kind,
Jim
Sam?
Crow laws essentially are what we would understand to be segregation laws. But also not just that, but the controlling of black mobility. So Jim Crow comes from a stereotype of a performer who would had this song called Jump Jim Crow, and it was essentially a minstrel song, and that was adopted by the Southern legislators, but also in the Northern legislatures as well, to essentially restrict the fraternization between the races. So it was designed to prevent black people from enjoying the same privileges that white people held. It was this idea that they could live in the same state, but they had to live in separate areas.
This new era of Jim Crow would inspire the civil rights movement, looking to spark a change in the country.
Now, if a black person, for instance, decided to drink at the wrong fountain, for instance, that was a prosecutable law. But what Jim Crow also did is it added additional penalties and additional restrictions to the black population. So it was more than just segregation. There were things called truancy laws, which if you were out after a certain time of night, you could be arrested and then sent into a convict labor, for instance. So what we call is the inception of the rise of mass incarceration begins under Jim Crow because black mobility was so restricted at that time.
We're going to walk together. We're going to stand together. We're going to sing together. We're going to stay together. We're going to moan together. We're going to groan together. And after a while, we'll say, freedom, freedom, freedom now!
The color line and the role it plays today is the reflection of a history of hate in America. As we continue to bridge the divide, we find out how Jim Crow laws laid a foundational curse on black oppression. Alicia Patillo, 13 Action News.
Insightful reporting there from Alicia.